Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, come on.
Hello.
That's better. My name is Bryan Ballinger, and I'm an artist, and I'm going to show you a little bit of this. Start by just showing you a little bit of the kind of stuff that I do, and then show you ways that I'm using 3D printing for my work. This is going to be, as you can see, we have quite an age range in here, so this is going to be some silly stuff, some technical stuff, so I won't be offended if you tune out one or the other of either one of those. Yeah, so I've been an illustrator and an artist for over 30 years. I've done picture books and worked in an animation studio and taught animation, and I do toys and all sorts of stuff. So here's me with a bunch of my characters that I've 3D printed. So what I love about 3D printing is it lets me actually physically hold the characters that I make after I've designed them. And some of these you see I've got here with me. I also did the mural down in the children's section, if you've been down there, the 360-degree one. There's a close-up of part of it. And then, just for fun, the penguin there on the right, I 3D modeled him and wanted to see what he would look like as a sculpture. So there he is, just for fun. This is one of my picture books. This is the Big Wig Parade. And what I like to do is when I do a picture book and I'm making the characters, I actually like to make the characters in 3D so that I have them. So this just kind of shows the characters from that book. And I made their wigs removable. So it lets me sit on the desk, and I can, like when I'm drawing and doing the book, I can look at them and see what they look like from different angles and just kind of hang out with them. But it's just kind of nice to have them sitting around. And then this is a page from another one of my books, Counting Cows. And there's one of the cows. The other cool thing about this is I'll 3D print out the characters and paint them, and then I mail them to the publisher, and then the editors have them sitting on their desks, and then when they're thinking, oh, hey, we need a new book, and there's like my characters are sitting right there. So, yeah. And there's another one of the cows, 3D printed. You can kind of see what that one looks like. So I'm from Huntington, Indiana, and I have all my characters from my books there. There's a display in the library there, and they're all just kind of sitting there. This is from one of my latest books, Story of a Pig Named Joe, and his quest to be fancy, and then there he is in 3D printed. Okay, so I use 3D printing with my children's books. But I'm going to show you a little bit. This is up in, anybody been to Angola? You know where Angola is? So they have an art center there, and we're working on a large sculpture proposal to put on the art center. So I'm going to show you some of the proposal that we're working on for that, and how we're going to use 3D printing for that. So there's the building that it's going to go on. And so at first they were talking about maybe doing a mural, but there's all these windows, and it's broken up. But then I noticed that a lot of the windows don't have any actual window in them. They're just kind of boarded up. So I thought, why not do a sculpture project taking advantage of that? So I took a bunch of my characters and then had them represent all the different types of arts that there are. So there's a sculptor, there's a dancer, painter, director, musician, actor character. And then I'm designing sculptures that will sit in the windows that don't actually have any window panes in them. So they'll sit in there like that on the side of the building. And I'll show you how that's going to work in a second. But so that's what it'll look like when you look at the building, and you'll see all the different characters sitting there. So I'm designing them so that the characters are 3D, but then they have a flat back, so they can sit flush against the wall or against the window that doesn't have any window in it. There's that guy. There's a cow, and you can see so it just has a flat back, so it can kind of sit against the wall. There's the duck. Yeah, and then that's kind of what they'll look like so they'll be popping out, and they'll be dimensional, but they'll also be flat against the wall. And so right now we're planning on 3D printing them, probably in parts, and then gluing them together, and then I'll paint them, and then I'll seal them, and that'll be what that sculpture project is like. Okay, so I also use 3D printing. I work with a toy company in New York, so I have a series of dog characters called Faulty Dogs, and so I model them, and then I use 3D printing to do the prototypes for them. And I'm going to show you in a second what I'm doing beyond that. But as you can see, I have a whole ton of different dogs as toy designs. There's a little closer up. Dogs are one of my favorite things to draw and make because you can really mess with what they look like, but they still are a dog. And as you can see, these are all over the place. But they're all dogs. There's that guy, then there's this guy. You can see that's what he looks like turned around. I have him actually right here. Wow. He's a little strange. Wow. But okay, so this is going to be getting a little bit more into the technical side of this, but what I'm doing now is I am making puppet versions of all these dogs. And I'm going to show you how I'm doing that using 3D printing. This is like what I'm actually working on now. Like I was working on this yesterday. So this is me. You're going to kind of see me and the process that I figured out on how to do it. Any expert puppet makers in here? Okay, good. This is my first time doing puppets like this, so you'll see the trial and error and stuff, and I've got a bunch of stuff I'm going to show on how I'm developing these into puppets.
I'm going to shadow puppets.
Yes. All right. Close enough. So when I'm doing a puppet, so first I start off with the sketches with these characters. So I've got a sketchbook, and I like always drawing dogs, and so that's kind of what my sketches look like. In fact, yeah, that dog on the right there, this is what he ended up looking like as the toy version. Big floppy ears. So I take my sketch and then I model the toy version in Nomad, and then I have to modify it to make it a puppet version, and I'm going to show you actually in Nomad. So
3D tool?
Yeah, so this is the software that I use for modeling. You can do it right on the iPad. It is super awesome. You can do professional level stuff, but it's also accessible and easy enough for even like kids to use. So it's awesome. I love it. Nomad is my favorite 3D software to use. So I can bring in the sketch there, and then you can see here's the dog, the kind of the toy version of what he looks like. But I have to modify that to make it actually a puppet. And to help me do that, I took my hand, which I know I have a weird hand, but that's my 3D scan of my hand. which 3D scans now are super easy to make too. I just made that using the iPad, and you can just kind of move it around your hand, and then you got it. So you're saying, well, why would you want your hand in there? Because I can use that to kind of decide, let me do that. So I can kind of see, okay, the hand, when I'm doing a puppet, the hand will need to fit in there, so I can at least have something to design around. And then, yeah, and so that's what the puppet version looks like. So it has to change, but it does have the same kind of vibe as the original. Then, going back to Keynote, the next part, again, this is going to be the most technical part of this talk, is I'm going to be making a mold so that I can cast this character in rubber so I can have a puppet version. And I'm going to show you that too. So, So here we go. So I've got the sketch, and then I've got the kind of the toy version right there on the left, that guy. And then here's the puppet version. So I've modeled the puppet version so my hand can fit up in there and make it talk. But I have to cast this in rubber and make a mold from it. So what I do is first I need to make a version of the puppet that's like you inflated it. It's like you make it like a balloon. So I'll go in and this has this little handy dandy thing here, and I can just kind of inflate that dog. And then I can smooth it out if I want. Oops, didn't want to do that one. I can hand smooth it out. I need to make this a little smoother than this, so I can just sit there and go over it, smooth it like that, or just do the thing. And can you see how it's getting nice and smooth now? So you might say, well, why did you need to inflate that and make a poofy version of him? Because I am going to subtract the other one from this one to make a hollow version so that I can then pour the stuff in. But I also need to split it in half. So I have the mold for this guy right here. So you can see that's the inside. And so I've got, right now in Nomad, I've got the inside and the outside, and so I'll do what's called a Boolean, and it will subtract one from the other, but then I'll need to cut it in half so I can pull the rubber puppet out of it. And I also need to make sure that it stays lined up. So you can see I've got these little boxes here so that it'll snap in there. It's got what's called a key. So to do that, so here I've got this model here is the inflated version with the regular version subtracted, and then to split it in half, I have this object which I will subtract from the one that I subtracted from before, which will then make a gap and split it. And then I have on this side, I have an indentation, and on this side it's coming out. So with the magic of subtraction, if I select that guy, and then let's go and select this one, and then I say Boolean, and I say Boolean, there we go. Almost done, there we go. And I separate that. So now that box, that plane with the keys in it is gone, but now I can take this and drag it apart, and now I've got a hollow version. And then when I 3D print that, when I pour the rubber in there, I get the actual, and I'll show you the puppet prototypes in a second. So that's how you can make a mold. So you You can sculpt and make whatever you want, and then you inflate it, subtract it, chop it in half, and you've got nice hollow mold. The other thing that I do is, I'll go back into Nomad here for a second, is sometimes I like to add texture, and I'll show you that. So here's that dog. Here's the toy version, again, that I showed you there. And then here's the puppet version right here. And then there's the mold. But sometimes I like to have, and you can see on the inside of this mold, can you see all the texture in there? So sometimes I don't want a smooth puppet. I want it to look a little more not smooth and textured. So I will sometimes actually texture the model. And you can do that in Nomad as well. If I just go to my stamp tool and, yep. And then I can just kind of stamp on texture onto it, and now it's textured. And I can do any kind of texture I want. I could take, if I saw a really cool paper texture or whatever, I can scan it in and then stamp that on there, take a photo of it, whatever. You can then have it have a little bit of texture to it. Okay. Then comes the 3D printing part. Anybody in here use Chidu Box? Anybody ever used Chidu Box? One person? Bunch of different ones, but basically I need to 3D print it, so I need to support it and then be able to run it through my 3D printer and print it out. And then once I've got that, oh yeah, well here's some of the other ones. So let's see, the floppy dogs. Here's that one that I just showed you. Here's the mold for that. And then I could just pour the rubber in there. However, I found that when you put rubber silicone into a resin 3D printed mold, guess what two things do not work together? Silicone and 3D printing resin. 3D printing resin stops silicone from hardening, so it will get mushy and it will never get turned into rubber. So I had to figure a way around that. So the first thing I do is afterwards I wash it and scrub it in isopropyl alcohol to get all the liquid part of the resin off. And I do that with a toothbrush. And I just clean that as well as I possibly can. Then I have to, you have to cure them, which means putting them under a UV light, which makes them harden, but doesn't get into all the recesses that are in here. So like this guy, it's got some pretty deep parts there. So I got to cure that. So I got a UV flashlight and I just sit there and I hold it in there. And that gets most of it. So yeah, I even wrote down there, yeah, use a flashlight. But I also found that this guy has teeth. And so the flashlight going in doesn't really get down into the teeth. So I made myself a little LED light. I hooked it up to a battery and got a UV LED light, and I just threaded in there and then put it in there and let that cure that, even that part. So that does most of the job. But then I found that there's still some particles of resin in there, so I have to bake the thing for 2 hours to get all the resin particles out of there. However, there's still a little bit going on there, so there'll still be patches where it won't quite cure. So I found this stuff called Inhibit X, which puts a barrier between resin and anything else. And so if I paint that on the inside of the mold, it will no longer, that blocks everything that's left, and so it then will be perfectly fine. However, Inhibit X and silicone bond to each other. So then you can't get the rubber out of the mold. So I have to do some release layers. So I found, well, what's slippery? Dish soap, right? So I paint the whole thing in dish soap, which works really good. Silicone won't stick to it. However, it does, when it dries, leaves little spots here and there it's not quite getting. So then I spray it with an oily kind of a release spray. And that did it. That finally, and like I brought some in, and if you want to look at them later, all my failed ones, all the failed kind of stuff. But that popped out, and that actually worked out great. So now I got it working. Then the kind of silicone I use is called dragon skin. If you haven't ever played with this and you want to make something out of silicone rubber, this stuff is awesome. The way that I do it is, so I take dragon skin, and then to get it, I first was trying just pouring it in, like I'd put the mold together, and then I'd just pour in the bottom, I'd pour in the silicone and turn it around and let it do it. But I found a couple things. One is that then I have to still paint it, and painting on silicone, anybody ever tried to paint silicone? Yeah, it's not that great. No. So I found, well, why not just first paint the inside of the mold, and then when you pop it out, it's already painted, right? Because if I paint, like, if I take this dog and I want his eyes to be white, I can just take white colored silicone and paint it into the mold, and then paint the brown around it. And the thing is, silicone doesn't paint very well, even as paint, but if you mix Cabosil with it and Thivex, these two things, it turns into more like a thick oil paint. And I can actually paint it. And it'll stick. Otherwise, it just kind of runs off. It's like it doesn't paint and doesn't stick well. Then, after casting it, I get a nice puppet, except that silicone is super floppy. So it just sort of flops around. Let me see if I have any of these are that way. No, these ones, this one a little bit. It just doesn't hold its shape. So it just kind of, even more so than this. So in order to get it to hold its shape, especially in the ears, and like if it's got a snout, you don't want the snout to just kind of flop around. So I found a foaming, Soma Foma is a foaming silicone, so I can put that on the inside after I get the dragon skin on there, and it gives it structure and backing. So now, with that in there, you can see it's got this foam on the inside. It holds its shape. And it makes it more comfortable when you're, when you stick your hand in there. And then I will, to get that to go all the way around on the inside, I found if I pour it in, it foams up, but it doesn't get all the way around into all the different parts the way I want. So I found if I mix the foam with some dragon skin and with some naphtha, it makes it thin, and then I can slush it around. And so slushing it around is a bit of a pain. So I had a friend of mine help me make what's called a rotocaster. So you can see I can just put the thing in there and then spin that around, and it slushes it all around the inside evenly. And it's just put it on there with rubber bands, and then I can just spin it around, and it does it. What's that? Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then I just take it out and take all the rubber bands off, and loosen it a little, and then I can just kind of, since I've done it in halves, then I can take the one half off and pull out the puppet. And I've already got most of it painted. You can see I don't have the eyeballs quite painted. I got to trim the sides a little, but then you end up with a puppet. And you can even show it to your dogs. Yeah. Yep. Then also, and this is, I just did this yesterday. So I'm right now experimenting with, so that's what the puppets look like just with silicone, but I wanted to see what they would look like a little more fuzzy. And I don't know if you can tell in this, but I've coated the outside with flocking. So it just makes it a softer thing. Oh yeah. So I have some of those. I'm going to show you now. These are like literally I did the flocking on two of these yesterday. Okay, so here's that one with just silicone. Okay. And it's kind of fun to see how it went from the toy version to the puppet version. And then let's see. So here's that one, and he's got my first attempt at flocking, and I'm getting better at it. And flocking is basically it's just taking like velvet and you make it up like into a powder, and then I just painted silicone around the outside and then shook the powder over it so it would stick. So just to have more of a soft feel. And then I just did this one, actually it was this morning. There's that guy. So yeah, so it retains its rubberiness, but it's got this kind of a soft velvety look to it. I don't know, which do you guys like better, the silicone or the velvet-ish? Yeah, I don't know, I think it has a little more character to it. So, and I'm still playing around with it, but this does work. The other experiment that I'm doing at the moment with flocking is I found what would happen could I do something similar to what I'm doing with the silicone, where I'm painting the inside of the mold, so I don't have to like do this and then cover it with the powder later. So, but then like how would that work? And so I found this stuff that they use to repair books that you can, it's soluble in isopropyl alcohol. So if I mix it together and then I mix the flocking in there with that, I can turn it into this like painted paste. And then since it's alcohol, it evaporates. And then I put the silicone on it. And then if I put water on it, it also dissolves in water. And then it dissolves away the paste, and then it leaves the flocking stuck to the silicone. So I don't know if that's going to stand up. I'm just going to put him. Yeah. So let's see. In case anyone wanted to know, and those were all the steps and that's just the 3D printing and then casting part of it. So anyway, 14 steps, and then I got it to work right. It only took me 2 months. And I couldn't figure out why there wasn't instructions on all this. And yeah, now I had to come up with them myself. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, if you want to come up to and look at any of this, you're welcome to. I would say you can touch the rejects as much as you want. The other ones you can touch, but I would say don't pick them up because they're, well, these guys might be a little fragile, and then the puppets are just the prototypes. But yeah.
Bryan, how do you go from a 2D sketch to a Nomad 3D?
Probably the easiest way is to just like open up Nomad. So Nomad is great because let's just go to a new. So Nomad, its whole thing is that it simulates as if you were using clay. So I'll call up a picture of whatever I'm doing, and then in Nomad I can let me get out of this and go to more of a brush. And so you can sit there and you can just immediately start sculpting, and it can subtract. So let's say I wanted, let's get a little smaller. So let's say I wanted like some eye holes, And then I wanted to get a nose going really fast. But it's like you're working with clay, and then it's got a bunch of tools for different stuff, so I can sit there and I can smooth that out. And so it's like you're sculpting with clay on the iPad. And
So you do your 2D sketch, pencil sketch, or
pencil,
and then-
Sharpie is actually what I
Okay.
draw with the most.
And then once that image is in your head, then you can go and do the 3D.
Yep.
3D
Then once I
version.
get it, and then I'll just bring it in. Well, here, like I can open this. Let's see. Let's go back to here. So yeah, then I just stick it up in the corner there so I can look at it and start building it. And then this is in parts. So like there's his eye. He kind of looks good like that.
Okay. So you can reuse parts from different models.
Yes, you can absolutely do that. You can, I could just, let's go ahead and clone that. Yeah, so now I got. Yeah.
Can you make like facial features? Can you get more detailed?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can get incredibly detailed.
Okay.
I don't know
So
if
you
I
could
have-
actually like sculpt a face with
Yes.
the software.
Oh yes, 100%. I'm trying to. Let me just see if I don't know if I have easily accessible any of my really detailed, because I have done some much. Well, let's see. There's this.
Wow.
That's anyway. It's got more detail. That's a sculpture that I'm working on designing. It's a
It is.
it's a chicken sitting on a dinosaur, or nesting on a dinosaur, really. But yeah, you can get very detailed, and you can do realistic, cartoony, whatever, and then you can 3D print it, which is the cool thing.
So all your 3D printed, are they painted, hand painted then?
They are.
Then what
Yep.
do you use for paint?
I use acrylic paint.
Okay.
Actually, the exact same paint I use for my murals.
Ah,
It works really well. Yeah.
So you know, the puppets, like I can see for like a book reading or something, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Do you have other? I mean, you could make like movies and things like
Yeah.
that. Do the voices and stuff.
Yeah, what I'm working on with a friend of mine, we're gonna do like a YouTube show with my dog characters. So we thought we'd once we get them like this, and then we can put them in front of like a green screen, and then put them being anywhere, and yep. So yes.
So you're printing with resin? Is
Yes.
that what I
Yep.
understand?
Yeah. It's more detail is mainly why.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked like resin.
Yeah. And I
Basic.
like resin. Yes.
Two questions.
Yes.
First, for Nomad, is it easy to add bones or like rigging for any animation or anything like that, or are you stuck with like kind of?
No.
No. Got it.
You can. You can repose things by masking and and then bending and maneuvering, but it does not have a rigging system in it. You'd have to put that into something else. Yeah. But it is easy to get it over into anything else, and has lots of really good retopology tools and stuff. So yeah.
So you could pop it into like an actual animation.
Yeah, you could pop it into Blender or whatever. Super easy. But yeah. But for the modeling and the sculpting, it's the bomb. And the other question?
The other question was, how much materials knowledge did you bring to this before you started, or were you like, today's the day I learned chemicals?
I had, before I started doing 3D printing, 0. I've been doing 3D computer graphics for a long time, but I'm also, I like the whole mad scientist side of all of this. So I like mixing and seeing what happens and trying this and trying that, and so the part of the fun of it is that whole I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to see what happens when I do this and when I do that, and yeah.
So I saw there was a step for you to, like, similar to the astronaut, turning.
Yeah.
everything. That fixture, was that designed in certain industry already, or like you or your friend invented it for you?
It's called a rotocasting machine, and there's a couple places that make them. I think only 2 that I was able to find, but there are on YouTube. You can find like how to build your own, and so that's what I did. We just looked up a YouTube video, and it's mostly used for casting like regular 2-part resin into molds, but it works great for this. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
The software is called Nomad Sculpt.
Nomad Sculpt. Yep, and it's for iPad or Android. Oh no, wait, and I do believe they just released a PC version.
They do.
Yeah.
Its camera can do the 3D, the scan.
Yeah. Well, the iPad. Yeah.
Detailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It only costs between $20 and $35.
And you own it. It's no renting
Yeah.
it or anything. It's,
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Scanner there, so
yeah,
it's
and it's like there's other programs like ZBrush and stuff that cost way more. That this is the best in my opinion. And you can just sit in front of the TV and just be doing this stuff, or in the car or whatever. And the learning curve on it, it's just really well designed. So, yeah. And then once you have it, you can export it, do whatever you want. Yep. It's good stuff. Yeah. Anything else?
Oh, I kind of have a question. So you said the Nomad is like basically like clay. So does that mean you need some certain basic skills or sense how to play with the clay to make it? Because you had a 2D sketch and you kind of mimic it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like, so let's say you're drawing and you're going to draw, like if I was going to draw this character, I might start when I'm drawing just with a sphere and then like an egg shape, and take the sphere here and the egg shape here and stick it together. Maybe I should open up something and show you what I'm talking about.
Some skills, right?
Well, everything takes a skill. It takes practice, yes. It takes practice. But some people will get right to it, and some people have to bang their head against the wall a little bit. But it's really learning how to start simple. So like if I was going to do a dog drawing, I might start with a sphere and then start with this egg shape and then another sphere, and then I want eyes here. And so I'm just starting with basic shapes, right? And you would do the same thing in Nomad. So you would start with a sphere, and then maybe I would make another sphere and kind of squish it down for the snout, and and so you're starting with the basic shapes just like you would if you were drawing. And then once you get those two, then you can select them both, and then you can merge them, and so now they're one object, and now they'll behave as one object. So if I go in and I can like smooth that out, so it looks like it's actually coming as part of it. And you just start with simple. It goes simple to complex. If you start trying to get in and do all the detail right from the start, it's not gonna work very well. I mean, you could, but I do not recommend it. Yeah, and then and then you can start off just with a couple brushes, and so just like your regular sculpt brush and maybe smooth, and that's all you start with. And then you can kind of learn the rest of them later, because you've got ones like crease that you can use, that you can put detail into it. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. There's a move brush if you wanted to just sort of push and pull something out of it. So yeah, it's like working with clay and then all these little extra tools. Yeah.
Where's your scan at? The scan button on that?
Oh, okay. So to scan something, what you do is you get 2 ways to do that. You don't use Nomad to do the scan. You would use a 3D scanning software, another app, and there's 2 different kinds. One, the iPads have what's called LiDAR on them. So the ones that use LiDAR, so if I was going to do my hand, I'd just hold the iPad and I'd move it around my hand, and it would, and then I could just import it into here. The other one, the other ones that actually work really good are called photogrammetry, Am I pronouncing that right? Photogrammetry. You just take lots of photos of your hand from different angles, and then it builds it out of 3D. However, we are living in the age of AI. And so there's a program called Meshy, and there's another one called HiTem, and you could give it like a photo of your hand front and back, and that's all it would need, and it would just make the model.
And Bamboo has a scan feature, but I've never used it, to make statues.
Yeah.
But I've never gone that. I don't know if I can get anything to come out.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played with that, but
Okay.
you were trying. You were going to say something.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about AI. So if you start with just two-dimensional sketch, maybe you could ask AI to generate you this first model of 3D stuff, and then you can tweak it in the Nomad.
You can. You can definitely do that. Part of it depends on whether you enjoy the process of the sculpting. Yes, but it's quite good. I found it doesn't have quite the same. It's making its own interpretations of what the 2D is into 3D, and if you're doing it yourself, you're going to get something different because like you look at my drawings. Well, let's just go back to this. So if you go to here, so like if you look at my drawing there, that is not three-dimensional at all. So there's a lot of interpretation that goes into making it this. So if I give this to AI, it's going to make something, and it's going to make it's going to look really cool, but it's going to make different decisions than I would. But yes, it's kind of mind-numbing how good it
Definitely
is.
the process, right? But maybe for the people who are just starting out, using AI would give them a head start. Then it's much less frustrating in the beginning, right? You need to tweak, and then as you get better at that, you can just start from scratch, right? And
or
do it all your way.
yeah, there's a bunch of interesting philosophical questions surrounding that. Like, is the struggle part of what makes it good? Or if you don't have the struggle, will you ever actually go into doing it yourself? Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, Meshy and HiTem are both AIs that do, it's pretty amazing. Like you could take a photo of this chair and it would, especially things that aren't like, my drawing is abstract representation of a dog, but if you give it a picture of a chair, that's not abstract, and it'll make that chair with all the textures for you. Yeah.
So, do you have Mesh and Heighten on your iPad? If you
Those are just websites.
Oh, okay. How would you spell Mesh? Because I want to.
MESHY,
Okay.
and then HiTem is HITEM. I believe HiTem will let you make a certain number for free without having to pay for it first. Yep. You can give it a picture of your head, and it'll make your head. Yeah.
3D a face, then you have a statue of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Yeah.
What were the scanning apps you liked?
The scanning apps. I'm trying to remember the name. Anybody else in here use 3D scanning apps? If you just look up like iPad 3D scanning, you'll find them.
I tried Scaniverse. That was pretty decent. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
there's one that was quite a bit, but there's also ones that do. There's another process, and I'm trying to remember what it is, but Gaussian splatting. If you can find a Gaussian splatting 3D scanning, those are pretty crazy. Those you can just sort of go like this with your iPad, and then you have the room as a 3D with all the textures and everything, and you can move through it. Any other questions?